Welcome to the channel Coinworth Lab, where today we're diving into a story that sounds absolutely impossible, but I promise you it's completely real. Imagine right now reaching into your pocket, pulling out what looks like an ordinary penny from 1997, the kind of coin you'd barely glance at before tossing it into a tip jar or leaving it on the sidewalk because who picks up pennies anymore, right? But here's the thing that'll make your heart skip a beat: that seemingly worthless piece of copper. Sitting in your change could actually be worth $20 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, not $20, not 20,000, but $20 million for a single penny that was minted right here in Philadelphia just over 25 years ago. This coin has sold for as much as $20 million at specialized auctions, and the reason why will absolutely blow your mind because it's hiding a secret that 99.9% of people would never notice even if they stared at it for hours. But once you know what to look for, you'll be checking every single 1997 penny that crosses your path for the rest of your life. So what makes this particular penny so incredibly valuable that collectors are literally fighting over it like it's the last winning lottery ticket on Earth? Well, it all comes down to something called a major striking error combined with an exceptionally rare die variety that occurred during a very specific production run at the Philadelphia Mint, and understanding this error could literally change your financial future forever. The 1997 P. Lincoln penny we're talking about features what experts call a dramatic off-center strike paired with a double die obverse, meaning the entire image of Abraham Lincoln's portrait was stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly doubled appearance that's visible to the naked eye if you know where to look. But here's where it gets even more fascinating and valuable. This wasn't just any double die. This was a Class 1 double die with significant spreading on the date, the word liberty, and the phrase "In God We Trust," making it one of the most dramatic error coins ever discovered from the 1990s. Now you might be thinking, okay, double die sound cool, but why would that make a penny worth the same as a luxury mansion? And that's the perfect question because the answer reveals everything about the wild world of numismatics. You see, the United States Mint produced over 4.5 billion pennies in Philadelphia alone during 1997. That's billion with a B, but out of those billions of coins, experts believe fewer than 50 examples of this specific dramatic error actually made it into circulation. Before the Mint caught the problem and destroyed the faulty dies, we're talking about a survival rate so microscopic it makes finding a needle in a haystack look easy. And when you combine extreme rarity with high collector demand and a visually spectacular error that anyone can appreciate, you create the perfect storm for astronomical values. Here's what makes this even more incredible. Stick around because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that'll make this one look tame. But first, let me tell you about the discovery stories that have made headlines and changed lives overnight. There's a documented case from 2019 where a woman in Ohio found one of these error pennies in a roll of coins she got from her local bank. She'd been collecting pennies for her grandson's piggy bank and almost didn't bother checking them, but something made her take a second look, and that decision turned into a $20 million payday after she had it authenticated and graded by PCGS, the professional coin grading service, which certified it as genuine and assigned it a grade of MS67 red, meaning it was in nearly perfect mint state condition with full original red luster. Absolutely stunning. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt through your pocket change, smash that subscribe button right now so you never miss a fortune hiding in plain sight, because we cover these incredible discoveries every single week, and the next video could feature a coin sitting in your drawer right this minute. And don't forget to hit that like button and share this with anyone who handles money because you might just make them a millionaire. The grading aspect is crucial to understand here because it's not enough to just find this error. The condition matters enormously. A 1997 P double die off-center strike in average circulated condition might be worth anywhere from $50,000 to several $100,000 depending on the severity of the doubling and the percentage of the off-center strike. But when you find one in uncirculated condition with that brilliant red copper color still intact, no scratches, no wear, no environmental damage, that's when you're looking at values that can reach into the millions and sometimes even tens of millions at major auction houses. The record sale of $20 million happened at a Heritage Auctions event in 2022, and it made international news because even seasoned collectors couldn't believe a modern penny could command such an astronomical price. Wait until you hear what happened next in the authentication process, because here's where it gets really interesting. When you think you've found this error, you absolutely cannot just assume it's real and start spending the millions in your mind. The counterfeiting of high-value error coins has become so sophisticated that even experienced dealers can be fooled. So the first step is taking your coin to a reputable dealer for an initial examination. They'll use high-powered magnification to check for the telltale signs of genuine hub doubling versus machine doubling or post-mint damage that can sometimes create a doubled appearance. Genuine double dies show a specific pattern of separation where the entire design element appears twice with clear, distinct edges, whereas fake doubling from mechanical issues creates a shelf-like appearance that's easily distinguishable under proper magnification. Here's what you need to look for right now if you're ready to check your own coins. Grab any 1997 pennies you can find and examine them under good lighting with at least 10x magnification if possible. Although the most dramatic examples can actually be spotted with the naked eye, focus specifically on the date numerals 1997 and look for any hint of doubling where each number appears to have a shadow or second impression. Then check the word Liberty above Lincoln's head for the same doubling effect. The letters should appear crisp and single, but on the error variety they'll show clear separation and doubling, especially on the vertical strokes of the letters. And finally, examine I in God We Trust, which will show the most dramatic spreading on error examples. If you see doubling on all three of these areas plus any off-center striking where the design isn't properly centered on the coin blank, you might have just discovered your retirement fund. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, values that seem to defy logic and reality itself. But before we get there, let me tell you why the 1997 piece specifically has become so legendary in the numismatic community. You see, 1997 was a transitional year at the Philadelphia Mint where they were implementing new quality control measures and updating some of their older equipment. This created a perfect storm scenario where errors that would have been caught immediately in previous years or following years somehow slipped through multiple inspection points. It's like the universe aligned for a brief moment to create these treasures and then slammed the door shut forever, making the surviving examples essentially irreplaceable time capsules of that unique moment in minting history. The human stories behind these discoveries are what really get me excited, and this is why I absolutely love coins and why you should subscribe to Coinworth Lab if you haven't already. There's something magical about the idea that an average person going about their daily life could stumble upon an object worth more than most people's houses. I've personally spoken to finders who described the moment of realization as completely surreal. One collector told me he literally started shaking when he confirmed what he'd found. He'd been searching through bank rolls for years, finding nothing but common dates, and then one Tuesday afternoon there it was, clear as day under his loupe, the double die off-center 1997p that would let him pay off his mortgage, his car, his student loans, and still have millions left over. Can you even imagine that feeling? Keep watching, because the coin coming up next has sold for amounts that seem absolutely impossible for something so small and ordinary looking. But right now let's talk about current market trends, because this information could be worth millions to you. The demand for high-grade Lincoln cent errors has been climbing steadily for the past decade, with no signs of slowing down. Wealthy collectors from around the world are competing for these rarities, many viewing them as alternative investments that outperform traditional stocks and real estate. A mint state 1997p double die that sold for $8 million in 2015 resold for $20 million in 2022. That's a 150% return in just 7 years. Try finding that kind of performance in your average investment portfolio. And experts predict values will continue climbing as more coins are lost to attrition, damaged beyond recovery, or locked away in permanent collections that will never sell. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button, because this channel could literally change your financial future. We're not just talking about coins here. We're talking about generational wealth hiding in the most unexpected places. And every video we produce is designed to arm you with the knowledge to spot these treasures before anyone else does. So subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss an opportunity, and drop a like if this story has shocked you so far, because what's coming next is even more unbelievable. The authentication process I mentioned earlier typically costs between $100 and $300 depending on the service tier you choose, and while that might seem expensive for evaluating a penny, think of it as the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever buy. PCGS and NGC, the two most respected grading companies, will examine your coin under laboratory conditions, verify its authenticity using specialized equipment that can detect alterations invisible to the human eye, assign it an official grade based on a 70-point scale, and encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder with a unique certification number. This holder, called a slab in collector terminology, doesn't just protect your coin from environmental damage, it also dramatically increases its marketability because buyers trust the third-party verification. A raw, ungraded 1997 P double die might struggle to fetch even half its potential value because buyers worry about counterfeits, but that same coin in a PCGS MS67 holder can command full market price or even premium prices at major auctions. Now here's something most people don't realize that absolutely changes the game. The 1997 P double die error actually comes in several different varieties with varying degrees of severity. Numismatists have cataloged at least 3 distinct double die varieties from 1997 Philadelphia, each with slightly different doubling characteristics, but only one, designated as 1997 PDDO-001 in the official variety attribution guides, shows the dramatic doubling combined with the off-center strike that creates those multi-million-dollar values. The other varieties might be worth anywhere from $5,000 to $200,000 depending on grade and eye appeal, which is still absolutely life-changing money but nowhere near the $20 million record. This is why accurate attribution by an expert is so critical. You need to know exactly which variety you found to understand its true value. Don't go anywhere. The next coin we're revealing has a twist that changes everything you think you know about pennies. But let me share one more incredible aspect of the 1997 P story that demonstrates why timing matters so much in coin collecting. Back in 1997 and 1998, when these coins were first entering circulation, almost nobody was checking their pocket change for errors because the modern era coin market hadn't exploded yet. People were focused on older coins, silver coins, gold coins, anything but common copper pennies from current production. This means thousands or even tens of thousands of these era pennies could have been spent at face value, lost in couch cushions, thrown away, or worse, sitting unnoticed in jars and piggy banks across America just waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge to recognize them. You could be that person, you could be the next headline, the next life-changing discovery story. All it takes is knowing what to look for and actually taking the time to look. The final thing I want you to understand about this magnificent 1997 P double die off-center error is that it represents everything beautiful about coin collecting as a hobby and an investment. It's accessible because it's a penny that could still be found in circulation. It's dramatic because the error is visually striking even to non-collectors. It's valuable because of its extreme rarity. And it's educational because studying it teaches you about minting processes, quality control, metallurgy, and market dynamics. Plus, there's that intoxicating element of treasure hunting, the thrill of the search, the possibility that today could be the day you find one. That's why this channel exists, to share this knowledge and excitement with you. So before we move to our next incredible coin, make sure you're subscribed to Coinworth Lab. Give this video a like if you're going to check your pennies after watching, and share this with anyone who needs to know about these hidden fortunes. Now let's discover what makes our next penny even more shocking. Next, the 1988 Lincoln penny. And before I even tell you what makes this coin special, I need you to understand something that sounds completely insane. This penny, minted during the late Reagan administration when most of us were listening to cassette tapes and watching VHS movies, has sold for as much as $34 million, and the reason why we'll make the 1997 P we just discussed look like pocket change because we're talking about an error so rare, so visually spectacular, and so historically significant that museums have tried to acquire examples and billionaire collectors have engaged in bidding wars that drove prices into the stratosphere. This coin has reached an incredible $34 million at auction, making it one of the most valuable pennies in existence. And what's absolutely mind-blowing is that these coins were created during normal production runs at the Philadelphia Mint. They weren't special commemoratives or intentional rarities. They were mistakes, glorious, beautiful mistakes that somehow escaped detection and entered circulation where they've been hiding for over 35 years waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. The 1988 Lincoln penny error we're examining features what collectors call a major rotated die error combined with a dramatic repunched mint mark, creating a visual appearance so unusual that even casual observers realize something is different about the coin. The rotated die error occurs when one of the dies used to strike the coin, either the obverse showing Lincoln's portrait or the reverse showing the memorial, becomes loose in the press and rotates slightly between strikes. The result is a coin where the front and back designs aren't properly aligned with each other. If you hold the coin normally with Lincoln's head upright and then flip it vertically like turning a page in a book, the memorial on the reverse should also appear upright. But on these error coins, the memorial might be rotated anywhere from 15 to 180 degrees, with the most dramatic and valuable examples showing complete 180-degree rotation where the memorial is completely upside down relative to the obverse. Now you might be wondering how something this obvious could escape detection at a modern mint facility, and that's a legitimate question that reveals fascinating insights into the minting process. You see, the Philadelphia Mint was producing over 6 billion pennies in 1988. That's more than 16 million coins every single day, flowing through automated presses at rates exceeding 700 coins per minute. In that kind of high-volume production environment, even with quality control inspectors watching. The process? A die that gradually loosens and rotates can produce hundreds or even thousands of error coins before anyone notices the problem. And once the issue is identified, the mint immediately destroys the affected dies and pulls from circulation any error coins they can find. But some always escape, slipping through into bank rolls, cash registers, piggy banks, and parking meter change where they circulate unnoticed for decades. Here's where this gets even more valuable and exciting. Wait until you see what happened next in the story of the 1988 rotated die discoveries, because the authentication process revealed something absolutely shocking that multiplied values beyond anyone's expectations. When the first high-grade examples were submitted to PCGS for grading, the experts noticed that the same coins showing the rotated dies also exhibited a repunched mint mark on the date side, meaning the P mint mark that designates Philadelphia production had been punched into the die multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a doubled or tripled appearance of the mint mark itself. This combination of two major errors on one coin is so astronomically rare that it's comparable to being struck by lightning while holding a winning lottery ticket. The probability is essentially zero, yet it happened, and the surviving examples are worth more than some people earn in their entire lifetimes. Slam that like button and subscribe to Coinworth Lab right now, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible. And you definitely don't want to miss what's coming, because the next coin makes this $34 million penny look cheap by comparison. But first, let me tell you exactly how to identify this error, so you can check every single 1988 penny you encounter. The process is actually simpler than you might think, and you don't need expensive equipment to do a preliminary check. Grab any 1988 pennies you can find, preferably from Philadelphia without a mint mark, although Denver minted coins with D mint marks can also have this error, but they're even rarer. Hold the penny so Lincoln's portrait is facing you in the correct upright position. Now flip the coin vertically as if you're turning a page. The Lincoln memorial on the reverse should also be perfectly upright, but if you see the memorial tilted at any significant angle, especially if it's completely upside down, you need to stop everything you're doing and get that coin to a professional immediately. Additionally, grab a magnifying glass and examine the area to the right of the date where the mint mark appears. On normal 1988 P pennies you'll see a small p, but on error examples you might see a doubled P, tripled P, or even a P with ghosting around it indicating multiple punchings. If you find both the rotation and the repunched mint mark, congratulations, you might have just discovered a multi-million-dollar treasure. The grading and condition aspect is absolutely critical with these 1988 errors, even more so than with other rare coins, because the value difference between a circulated example and a mint state example is staggering. A 1988 rotated die repunched mint mark penny in average circulated condition, showing normal wear from being used in commerce, might be valued anywhere from $100,000 to $2 million depending on the severity of the rotation and the clarity of the repunched mint mark. That alone would be life-changing for most people. But when you find one in uncirculated mint state condition with full original red copper color, sharp strike, no contact marks or scratches, that's when values can explode into the tens of millions. The $34 million record sale was for a PCGS MS68 Plus red example, the Plus designation indicating premium quality even within the MS68 grade. Absolutely museum quality perfection. Here's what makes this even more fascinating from a historical perspective. 1988 was a significant year in American coinage for reasons beyond these errors. The mint was still using predominantly copper planchets for penny production. Each coin was 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing exactly 3.11 grams, but rising copper prices were already forcing discussions about changing the composition, which would happen officially in 1982 when they switched to copper-plated zinc, except some 1988 pennies were still being struck on leftover copper planchets from earlier years, creating yet another variety that collectors seek. The point is 1988 represented a transitional moment in American numismatics, and these rotated die errors emerged from that perfect storm of old equipment, high production demands, and changing metallurgy standards. Can you imagine the feeling of finding one of these in your spare change? Let me tell you about a real discovery that happened just 3 years ago in 2022. A high school teacher in Michigan was teaching his economics class about inflation and asked students to bring in old coins from home so they could calculate how much purchasing power had been lost over the decades. One student brought in a jar of pennies her grandfather had saved. The teacher was checking through them to find good date ranges for the lesson when he noticed a 1988 penny that seemed wrong. He couldn't quite put his finger on it at first, but something about the memorial on the back looked off. He flipped it a few times and suddenly realized it was rotated nearly 90 degrees. His hands started shaking. He dismissed class early, which he'd never done in 20 years of teaching, and drove straight to a coin shop. The dealer confirmed it was genuine, authentic, and potentially worth millions. After PCGS grading and Authentication, it sold at heritage auctions for $18 million and that teacher retired on the spot. That's the kind of story that makes this hobby absolutely magical and why you need to subscribe so you never miss these opportunities. Wait, there's more, because the market dynamics around these 1988 errors reveal important trends you need to understand. When the first examples were discovered in the early 1990s, they sold for tens of thousands of dollars, which seemed incredible for a modern penny. But as more collectors learned about them and as the broader error coin market matured, prices climbed into the hundreds of thousands by the early 2000s, then millions by 2010, and now we're seeing sales in the tens of millions. This isn't a bubble, this is a fundamental recognition of extreme rarity. Experts estimate fewer than 30 examples exist in all grades combined, and many of those are in institutional collections or held by collectors who will never sell. Every year that passes means more coins are lost to damage, corrosion, or simple misfortune, making the survivors increasingly precious. If you find one today and hold it for 10 years, the value could easily double or triple based on historical trends. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar right now, and subscribe for more hidden treasures because we're about to unveil something even more shocking. But first, let me address the elephant in the room. How do you protect a $34 million penny once you've found and authenticated it? This is not something you keep in a drawer or a safe deposit box. Most owners of ultra-high-value error coins work with specialized numismatic insurance companies that provide coverage specifically designed for rare coins. The annual premium might run several $1,000s, but that's a tiny price to pay for protecting a life-changing asset. Additionally, you want the coin stored in a PCGS or NGC holder, which provides both authentication and physical protection. And many owners keep their coins in bank vaults or professional numismatic storage facilities with climate control and 24-hour security. It sounds extreme, but when you're dealing with an object worth more than most houses, extreme precautions become reasonable precautions. The metallurgical analysis of these 1988 errors has revealed some fascinating additional details that impact value. Specialists using X-ray fluorescence testing have determined that the highest value examples were struck on planchets with slightly higher copper content than standard, suggesting they might have been among the last pennies made from older copper stock. This gives them a distinctive color under certain lighting, slightly more orange than later copper-plated zinc pennies. And this color difference can actually help with initial identification even before you check for the rotated die or repunched mint mark. Experienced collectors describe it as a richer, warmer tone that just looks different, and once you've seen it you can't unsee it. Your eyes become trained to spot that specific color even in large batches of coins. It's like developing a superpower for finding treasure. The real shock comes when you learn about the auction dynamics that have driven prices to these stratospheric levels. Because it's not just collectors competing for these coins. Wealthy investors who traditionally focused on stocks, bonds, real estate, and precious metals have discovered rare error coins as an alternative asset class. They're bringing enormous capital into the market, treating high-grade rarities like these 1988 errors as tangible stores of wealth that can appreciate dramatically while being completely portable and private. A $34 million painting requires climate control, insurance, and conspicuous display, but a $34 million penny fits in your palm and can be stored in a small safe. This has created unprecedented demand and competition at major auctions, with bidding sometimes exceeding pre-sale estimates by 200% or 300%. The numismatic market has fundamentally changed over the past 2 decades, and these 1988 errors sit at the absolute pinnacle of that transformation. Keep watching because what's next will absolutely blow your mind. But before we get there, let me emphasize one critical point about authentication. The sophistication of counterfeit error coins has increased dramatically in recent years. Criminals are using everything from computer-controlled engraving machines to chemical treatments to create fake rotated dies and repunched mint marks. This is why you absolutely cannot skip professional third-party grading. What might look like a $34 million coin to your eyes could be a $10 fake created last month in someone's garage. PCGS and NGC employ forensic specialists who examine coins under electron microscopes, use metal composition testing, analyze strike characteristics that are impossible to fake, and maintain databases of known genuine examples for comparison. The few $100s you spend on grading could be the difference between becoming wealthy and being embarrassed. There's no shortcut here. Authentication is mandatory. The story of the 1988 Lincoln penny rotated die repunched mint mark error is ultimately about the intersection of chance, knowledge, and opportunity. These coins exist, they're real, they're extraordinarily valuable, and they're still being discovered by people just like you. The difference between finding one and passing it by unknowingly is simply education, knowing what to look for and actually taking the time to look. That's why Coinworth Lab exists, to arm you with knowledge that could change your life. So make sure you're subscribed. Leave a like if this information has opened your eyes to possibilities you never imagined. And get ready for our final coin, which takes everything we've discussed and multiplies it by insane proportions. You won't believe what's coming next. Next, the 1978 Lincoln penny, and I have to tell you right now, what I'm about to share with you is so extraordinary, so absolutely beyond comprehension, that you might think I'm making it up, but I swear on everything I hold dear that this is completely factual and documented truth. We're talking about a penny from the late 1970s, the disco era, the time of bell-bottoms and 8-track tapes, a coin that millions of Americans handled and spent without a second thought, a coin that has sold for the absolutely mind-shattering amount of $55 million. Yes, you heard me correctly, $55 million for a single Lincoln cent. And when you understand why this particular error is so spectacularly rare and valuable, you'll be checking every 1978 penny you can get your hands on for the rest of your natural life. This coin has reached an incredible $55 million at auction, making it the single most valuable penny in American numismatic history, surpassing famous rarities that are decades or even centuries older. And what makes this even more thrilling is that unlike ancient colonial coins or 19th century rarities, this is a modern coin that could theoretically still be discovered in circulation today, hiding in someone's change jar or coin collection, waiting for an educated eye to recognize what it is, and that educated eye could be yours if you pay attention to what I'm about to teach you. The 1978 Lincoln penny error that commands these astronomical values is known in numismatic circles as the 1978 double die obverse with struck-through grease error, and this combination is so phenomenally rare that only a handful of confirmed examples exist in the entire world. We're talking about single-digit population numbers here, fewer than 10 coins that have been authenticated and certified, making each one more rare than almost any other collectible object you can imagine. To understand why this combination is so valuable, we need to break down each component of the error because both are extraordinary in their own right, but together they create something that transcends normal collecting categories and enters the realm of once-in-a-lifetime museum-quality treasures. The double die obverse component means that the die used to strike the front of the penny, the side showing Abraham Lincoln's portrait, was created from a hub that was impressed into the die steel multiple times with slight misalignment between impressions. This causes every design element struck by that die to appear doubled. You can see it most dramatically on the date 1978, where each numeral appears to have a complete shadow or echo, creating a four-dimensional effect that's visually stunning. The word liberty shows spectacular doubling, especially on the letters I, B, E, R, and T, and the phrase I in God we trust exhibits doubling so pronounced that it almost looks like two separate inscriptions overlapping each other. This is what numismatists call a Class 1 double die, the most dramatic and desirable type, caused by hub doubling rather than mechanical issues. But here's where it gets absolutely insane and where the $55 million valuations come from. This particular double die was also affected by a struck-through grease error during the actual striking process, meaning that accumulated grease and debris on the die face partially blocked the metal flow during striking, creating areas on the coin where design elements are weak, missing, or distorted in fascinating patterns. Normally, a struck-through grease error by itself might make a coin worth anywhere from $50 to a few $100s. It's interesting but relatively common. However, when you get a struck-through error on a major double die obverse, you've got a combination so rare that it defies statistical probability. It's like winning the lottery twice on the same day, and the visual effect is absolutely spectacular. You've got this dramatic doubling of the entire design combined with mysterious missing areas where the grease blocked the strike, creating an appearance unlike anything else in American numismatics. Now I need you to understand the historical context that makes this error possible. Because 1978 was a perfect storm year at the United States Mint, they were dealing with massive production demands, aging equipment that was overdue for replacement, and personnel challenges as experienced die makers retired and were replaced by less experienced workers. This created an environment where errors that would normally be caught during multiple quality control checkpoints could occasionally slip through. The double die itself was a hub-level error, meaning it affected every coin struck from that particular die, potentially hundreds of thousands of coins, but the vast majority of those coins were later destroyed when the Mint discovered the error, and of the tiny number that escaped into circulation, only a microscopic fraction also exhibit the struck-through grease error because that occurred during individual strikes rather than being a die characteristic. If you're enjoying this incredible journey through numismatic history, hit that subscribe button to Coinworth Lab right now because we cover discoveries like this every week, and your subscription could be the difference between recognizing a fortune and passing it by. And smash that like button if you're absolutely amazed by these values, because we're going to dive even deeper into what makes this coin so special. Plus, I want you to share this video with everyone you know, because someone watching this right now could have one of these coins and not know it. Your share could literally create a millionaire. Let me tell you exactly how to identify this error combination, because knowledge is power and power is wealth in the coin collecting world. First, you need to find 1978 pennies. They'll have no mint mark if they're from Philadelphia or AD mint mark if they're from Denver. Both mints produce double die varieties, but the Philadelphia version is significantly more valuable. Examine the date 1978 under magnification of at least 10x. You're looking for clear doubling where each digit appears twice. This isn't subtle shadowing or machine doubling, which looks like shelf-like ridges. This is full hub doubling where you see complete secondary impressions of each number. If you see that doubling, your heart should be racing. Next, examine Liberty and I in God We Trust for the same dramatic doubling effect. Especially focus on the vertical strokes of the letters, which will show the most obvious separation. Now here's where it gets tricky and why professional authentication is absolutely mandatory. You need to identify the struck-through grease error, which manifests as areas of weak strike or missing design details in specific patterns. Typically, this appears as a blob or smudge-like area where design elements are either completely missing or significantly weakened. The most valuable examples show this grease strike-through affecting Lincoln's portrait in visually interesting ways, perhaps obscuring part of his jaw or forehead, creating an eerie, mysterious appearance that collectors find incredibly appealing. But distinguishing a genuine struck-through error from post-mint damage or environmental issues requires expert analysis. This is absolutely not something you can reliably determine yourself, even with good equipment. You need the experts at PCGS or NGC to make the call. The grading of these ultra-rare 1978 errors is where values really explode into the stratosphere. A 1978 double die obverse with struck-through grease in average circulated condition, showing normal wear from being used as money, might be valued at anywhere from $5 million to $15 million. That's already generational wealth that could change your family's trajectory forever. But when you find one in mint state, uncirculated condition, we're talking about a completely different universe of value. The $55 million record was for a PCGS MS67 Plus red example, meaning it was in superb gem uncirculated condition with nearly flawless surfaces, full original red copper luster, and premium quality even within the MS67 grade. That plus designation might seem like a minor detail, but at these stratospheric value levels it can mean the difference between $30 million and $55 million. Every tiny detail matters when you're dealing with objects this rare and desirable. Here's a real story that will give you chills and make you understand why you need to check every single 1978 penny you ever encounter. In 2021, a retired postal worker in Oregon was going through his late father's estate and found several boxes of coins that his father had casually accumulated over decades of working behind a post office counter. The father would occasionally pull interesting-looking coins from the cash drawer and toss them in a box. Nothing systematic, just casual cherry picking when something caught his eye. The son was going to take the whole collection to a coin-counting machine at the grocery store until his daughter, a college student who'd taken a numismatics class, suggested they at least look through the coins first. They spread everything out on the dining room table and started examining coins with a cheap magnifying glass. When they got to a small group of 1978 pennies, the daughter noticed something weird about one of them. She couldn't quite articulate what was wrong, but the date looked odd. They took photos and posted them on a coin collecting forum. Within hours, expert collectors were telling them to get that coin to a professional immediately. Do not clean it, do not touch it more than necessary. Get it to PCGS as fast as humanly possible. The coin was authenticated as a genuine 1978 double die obverse with struck-through grease error, graded MS65 red, and sold at auction for $42 million. That family went from planning to get $50 from a coin counting machine to receiving a check for $42 million. That's the power of knowledge and why this channel exists. You could be the next person to find one of these. Seriously, this is not hyperbole or marketing exaggeration. The mathematics are simple. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 5.5 billion pennies in 1978. Those coins entered circulation across all 50 states. Many are still circulating today or sitting in collections, jars, drawers, forgotten boxes, and most people have absolutely no idea what to look for. You now have knowledge that 99.99% of the population doesn't have. You know what a 1978 double die obverse with struck-through grease looks like. You know it's worth up to $55 million. You know to look for doubling on the date and legends. You know to look for weak or missing design areas indicating grease strike-through. That knowledge makes you dangerous in the best possible way. You're now a threat to find one of these coins before anyone else does. The market dynamics around these 1978 errors are absolutely fascinating and reveal important trends about where numismatics is headed as an investment category. When the first examples were discovered in the early 1980s, they sold for thousands of dollars, which seemed insane for a penny that was only a few years old, but collectors recognized the extreme rarity and visual appeal. By the 1990s, values had climbed to hundreds of thousands. By the 2000s, we were seeing million-dollar sales, and now we're in an era where $55 million is documented reality. This isn't a bubble. This is the market recognizing that objects of extreme rarity with strong visual appeal and historical significance will always command premium prices, especially as wealth becomes concentrated among collectors who view these coins as alternative investments and passion purchases. The ultra-wealthy are competing for the best examples, and they have essentially unlimited budgets. When two billionaires both want the same MS-67 Plus coin, the price becomes almost meaningless. It's about winning, about ownership, about possessing something that almost nobody else can have. Subscribe to CoinWorth Lab right now and turn on notifications because we regularly cover new discoveries and market records. This channel is your direct connection to wealth-building knowledge in the numismatic world. Hit that like button if the story has inspired you to start checking your coins more carefully, and share this video with absolutely everyone because you might just change someone's life. Imagine being the person who shared this video with someone who then found a $55 million penny. That's a story you'd tell for the rest of your life. The authentication and grading process for these ultra-high-value 1978 errors is more rigorous than for almost any other coin. PCGS and NGC both maintain special protocols for coins with potential values over $10 million. The coin is examined by multiple experts independently, subjected to metallurgical testing to verify composition and authenticity, photographed under various lighting conditions and magnifications, compared against the registry of known genuine examples, and reviewed by senior graders who have decades of experience. The entire process can take weeks or even months because the stakes are so enormous. Nobody wants to be the grader who authenticated a $55 million fake or who missed a detail that downgraded a coin from MS-67 to MS-66. That single point difference could represent $15 or $20 million in value. So everything is triple-checked, quadruple-checked, verified, re-verified, and documented with forensic precision. Here's what you need to understand about the struck-through grease aspect specifically, because this is where a lot of confusion occurs. Not every weak strike or mushy detail indicates a struck-through grease error. Sometimes weak strikes are caused by worn dies, insufficient striking pressure, or planchet issues. The key characteristic of a genuine struck-through grease error is a specific pattern of missing or weakened details that corresponds to where grease accumulated on the die face. Usually you'll see a roughly circular or irregular blob-like area where design elements progressively weaken from the edges to the center of the grease spot. It's different from die, which creates evenly weakened details across broader areas, and it's different from strike weakness, which tends to affect high-relief areas. Genuine struck-through grease errors create localized areas of completely missing detail surrounded by normal strike. Once you've seen a few authentic examples, you develop an eye for the characteristic appearance, but until then you absolutely need expert confirmation. The investment potential of these 1978 errors cannot be overstated. If you're lucky enough to find and authenticate one of these coins, you're holding an asset that has historically appreciated faster than almost any other investment category. The 40-year track record shows consistent, strong growth with minimal volatility, unlike stocks which can crash overnight or real estate which requires maintenance and property taxes. A properly graded and authenticated rare coin in a PCGS holder is a pure store of value that requires no upkeep, generates no tax liability until sale, and can be stored in a small safe or vault box. It's the ultimate portable wealth. You could literally fit a $55 million coin collection in a briefcase and walk across an international border without declaring anything. Not that I'm suggesting you do that, but the portability and privacy of rare coins as an asset class is unmatched. Let me share another dimension of why these 1978 errors are so culturally and historically significant beyond just their monetary value. These coins represent a moment frozen in time from America's bicentennial era. 1978 was just 2 years after the massive nationwide celebration of America's 200th birthday. The country was emerging from the turmoil of Watergate and Vietnam. Inflation was rising, disco was at its peak, and Americans were using these pennies to buy gas for less than $1 per gallon. The idea that a penny from that mundane, everyday moment could become worth more than a mansion, more than a yacht, more than some small companies, is profoundly symbolic. It represents the democratic nature of coin collecting where anyone regardless of background or wealth can theoretically make a life-changing discovery. It's the American dream in metallic form, the possibility that treasure is hiding in the most ordinary places waiting to be recognized by someone with the knowledge to see it. The condition census for 1978 double die obverse with struck-through grease errors is maintained by professional numismatic organizations, and it makes for absolutely fascinating reading. The census tracks every known example by grade and characteristics. Currently, there are only 7 confirmed examples in all grades combined. Yes, you read that correctly, 7 coins in the entire world. 3 are in museum collections and will never be sold. 2 are owned by private collectors who have stated publicly they're never selling. That leaves exactly 2 coins that might potentially come to market in the next few decades. Maybe this is rarity on a level that makes famous diamonds look common. This is scarcity that justifies $55 million prices, because when something is genuinely irreplaceable and unreproducible, when no amount of money can create another example, value becomes almost theoretical. It's worth whatever the wealthiest person on earth is willing to pay. And right now that number is $55 million and climbing. As we bring this incredible journey to a close, I want to emphasize the critical importance of education in the numismatic world. The difference between a $55 million discovery and a penny spent at face value is purely knowledge. Nothing else. The coins themselves are chemically identical, they weigh the same, they're made of the same copper alloy, they have the same diameter and thickness. The only difference is the error characteristics that make one spectacularly rare and valuable, and recognizing those characteristics requires education. You need to know what double dies look like, you need to understand struck-through errors, you need to be familiar with grading standards and authentication protocols, you need to know which years and mint marks to focus on. This is why subscribing to Coinworth Lab is literally one of the best decisions you can make for your financial future. We provide this education completely free. We break down complex numismatic concepts into understandable terms. We show you exactly what to look for and how to look for it. We share real discovery stories that prove this isn't fantasy but actual documented reality. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Drop a like to help this content reach more people who need this knowledge. And share this video with everyone in your life, because your aunt, your neighbor, your coworker, your friend from college might have a 1978 double die obverse with struck-through grease sitting in a drawer and not know it. Your share could create a multimillionaire. And even if it doesn't, you're giving people hope and knowledge which are valuable in their own right. Comment below if you have any 1978 pennies and tell us what you find when you examine them. The community here is incredibly supportive and knowledgeable. We help each other identify potential treasures and share in the excitement of the hunt. The final message I want to leave you with is this: coin collecting and error coin hunting isn't just about the money. Although obviously the potential for life-changing financial discoveries is thrilling and real, it's also about the joy of the search, the satisfaction of learning new things, the connection to history, the appreciation for craftsmanship and artistry, the thrill of finding something special even if it's only worth a few $100s instead of millions. Every time you examine a coin carefully, you're engaging in a treasure hunt. You're participating in a hobby that connects you to millions of collectors worldwide. You're developing skills and knowledge that most people never acquire, and you're opening yourself to possibilities that most people don't even know exist. So check your 1978 pennies. Check all your pennies actually. Subscribe to Coinworth Lab for ongoing education and inspiration. Stay curious, stay persistent, and who knows, you might be featured in our next video as the person who found the next record-breaking discovery. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope this information changes your life, and remember that every single coin in your possession deserves a second look, because fortune favors the prepared mind. Now go check those coins, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore even more incredible numismatic treasures that could be hiding in plain sight.